I'm Rayos Magos, a mixed media artist, born and raised here in San Jose. Identify as Chicano or Latinx, kind of for the more contemporary-minded folks, and that to me just means it's a sort of political identity or reference to just being people originally from the Americas, and I think that, again, I've come to embrace that identity a lot more getting older, because growing up I didn't really know what it meant to be Mexican or Mexican American or Chicano. I didn't know what that meant. I mean, when you're kind of born into this world, you're just kind of given all these labels or these things, and I didn't have a reference point to what that meant. So it wasn't until traveling to Mexico or other places that I felt really connected with Latin America. I've been here almost 5 years now in this space. So I think once I got this space, I was really able to expand my arts practice and, go bigger or try different things that I couldn't when I was just working in a room. Parents, they were young parents, and, they were trying to figure it out. They put me in a lot of sports, but one of the things that I consistently was given or gifted for like my birthdays or Christmas or stuff was coloring books, sketchbooks, crayons, markers, things of this sort. Yeah, it's sad. One of my skulls fell off the top there. Which one? It was the one I had made. It was the first one, and it was actually bigger, and it fell off. Like one day I was like, because this stuff actually wasn't. I put those shelves up recently. Yeah. So all this stuff was just there in the corner over here, and so I put up these shelves that somebody gave me, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna put all that stuff up, and then it was cool because it just looks like it's like an altar, or it just looks like I have more space in here. So I think the first one I made was a small one, and this was 2020. So they asked, and this was during the pandemic, when they asked to do they invited me to do the altar, and it was outside in the parking lot of Mexican Heritage Plaza. And so because I'm such a two-dimensional artist, right, like painting, drawing, this kind of thing, like sculpture was very new to me. And normally they have it indoors or where people can walk around. So I was like, hey, I have to go big so people could see it from their car. And so that's why I started doing these big cardboard and paper mache pieces. We just kind of remixed some of the pieces and made some new ones, like the cactuses were new. And then what else? This year, we made the boots, we made those blue lanterns, and then this mezcal bottle in the back, some also new cactus forms. But yeah, it's hard because it's you collect a lot of this stuff too. A lot of different just art books here, stuff that I've accumulated or folks have given to me. I just recently went to Mexico again for the art fairs there and got this book. I got a few books, but this one is illustrated by Manuel Vargas, and I don't know, I just really liked, this is kind of my printmaking style too. So again, I like a lot of stuff that I kind of already am interested in or do. That's a really cool one. But really inspired a lot by the art of Picasso. I think what I really appreciated about his artwork is, he was actually just very multi-talented, and he could do figurative work like this. He could make sculptures. He could do really just abstract kind of figurative work. So yeah, I think I got this when I went to, where was this one at? Yeah, Paris. I think I had gone to Europe. I think we only know him as doing this kind of stuff, just really geometric style shapes, but he was also really skilled in capturing, figures. I traded with some artists at the Mexican Year, so these aren't me, but it's kind of sort of around the same theme or interest that I'm into. But yeah, a lot of black and white with my printmaking stuff. After graduate school, after I graduated, I really wanted to study Spanish, and again, I knew some, but I wanted to really invest in learning my cultural roots and improving my Spanish. So I lived out there for like 2 years. I was teaching English, which is kind of an interesting experience because I was teaching while also being a student. So it was like I was having a parallel experience with my students where they were adults, and we were both trying to learn a language, and it was great. Like I wouldn't change it. I was definitely the poorest I've ever been. Like just eating bean tacos. There's a lot of sponges here because I was just teaching the other day. So. I've worked in various roles, as a tutor, a teacher in elementary schools. I've worked as a counselor with youth and adults. So it's like I enjoy like supporting others and finding kind of their own wisdom, like their own. I kind of feel like we're all teachers and students in the same breath. Like we're always learning and we're always teaching each other. So I feel like even when I teach workshops, like I'm learning as well. Something really about teaching and working with people that really makes it all worthwhile. Because again, like I can just create here in isolation, which is what I used to do, and like be really like shy about showing it. But now I kind of just let it all hang out. I'll fast forward. I'm doing, workshops with youth. I'm doing workshops presently with the unhoused population here in San Jose through an organization called Home First. So yeah, I was just there yesterday for the third time, visiting 2 different sites, doing printmaking, because I feel like this medium is very user friendly. And sometimes you don't even really need expensive materials or tools to do it. Early on, I kind of knew that I was good at helping and supporting others, but I didn't know what that meant. And I think, for the longest time, I thought it was through art, but then, once I got to college, art didn't seem, a viable path for me. So I got into psychology for that reason and wanting to help, people of color specifically. I was working at probably for about 10 years in like various, roles in the mental health field, working at schools, working with youth, working with families. And it was noble work. I loved the work that I was doing and all the different stories and people I met along the way. But I think, as I mentioned, it was just the restrictions or the limitations of working as a healer in that kind of Western way was I was getting burnt out. It was just like, I just wanted to lock myself up in my studio and make art. So I always made a lot of art. Like I always considered this like my second job. So I would go to work, do my 9 to 5, come here, maybe take a nap, eat dinner here sometimes. And, then I would just stay like another, to the late night. And then do it all over again. But I think in 2020, I actually had a lot of success in terms of art, especially like public art, and like I had some art up at the airport, just different things, from putting myself out there and kind of, investing my own money into myself, into my projects, into my merchandise or, my art materials, etc. And it was like the first time I actually made money. It was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like I've made more than I've invested in. So there's something here. It's a scary uncharted path, like we were talking about. It's very uncertain, but also life's uncertain. So I think that at that point, because I had never done something like this, I was worried, and it took me months of just deliberating like how I was gonna do this and when I was gonna tell them that I was quitting. My background's in psychology, so I'm always fascinated just about our thoughts and ideas. This actual canvas was gifted to me from a friend in San Francisco that studied art and made canvases. I didn't study art, but have always been making art. So she gave this to me, and then when I moved, I just kind of had it with me, and it was blank. And then when I moved in, it was like, okay, now I could actually paint this because I have space. So that was the first painting I had started on. That one actually ended the series. So I started this series when I first moved in, and then I think maybe towards the end of 2020, I had a show with all this work that I had sort of made based on that series. I work like in series, so I make like just a bunch of stuff all at once. usually with the same theme. There's a lot of symbolism. That's another thing that's very common in my work, or you see it throughout, like the printmaking stuff or this bigger painting or collage stuff. There's always symbols, or like it has a double meaning. I think again, my purpose is to continue just being a living, breathing example of what somebody can be if they sort of really focus on their strengths and their capabilities. The same way that we pass down our genetics and our sort of our physical traits, our personality traits, our health stuff, right? You know, positives and negatives of all that. We also pass down the emotional stuff and psychological stuff. So I think for me, the sacrifice of my ancestors, my grandparents, my parents, and everybody that came before them, kind of like you were mentioning, you know, it's like, because of their sacrifices, now I'm able to like do this, right? Because again, it does take a lot of your own money to kind of, it's like a Kickstarter, but like for your whole life, like, you know, it's like an ancestral Kickstarter. Like they did all this hard, you know, laborious work and kind of kickstarted me to be this, you know, fruition of their work. And so for me, I want to keep working with my own hands and using that to teach folks, you know, whether through art or through psychology or even just in, you know, a conversation on the street or saying hello to somebody. Like sometimes all you have is a moment. So, you know, sometimes it's just being a good person. And I think that that's really big for me. So I feel like I do that through my art, but also through my classes, or also just through, you know, the way I try to live my life. Buy my shirts now. No.
Commercial. Brought to you by...
They also didn't have a sink, so it's nice to have a sink.